Hey folks, welcome. Peter Hanssens here from Cloud Shuttle. I've got Sai from ClickHouse with me today. We're going to be talking about this new feature, ClickPipes, that's based on PeerDB. We've got a special guest dialing in all the way from San Francisco, I believe, Sai. So real honor and pleasure to be with you. For those of you on the live stream, though, I'm pretty keen to find out where you're dialing in from before we get started, and feel free to chime in, whenever you've got a question or, you wanted to say hello. Love to hear from you. Love to make these webinars dynamic. It's great that we're able to sort of connect and have folks dial in from across the globe, bring their expertise. And we've had a lot of fun working with Sai to bring you this webinar today to show you this really cool use case of bringing real-time analytics to Postgres workloads through the power of PeerDB and ClickPipes, and being able to replicate that data through to ClickHouse. So really excited to sort of get this underway. So to get us started. And please do sort of feel free to chime in with any questions that you might have for us today. Always really welcome and want to make these sessions as interactive as possible. So please do sort of chime in with any questions that you've got. But today we're exploring a critical challenge in the data engineering landscape, migrating analytics workloads from Postgres to ClickHouse. I'm excited to share Cloud Shuttle's implementation approach and have PeerDB's founder join us to discuss this transformative solution, hearing it straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. Before we dive in, let me introduce our speakers today. I'm Peter Hanssens, founder of Cloud Shuttle, where we specialize in data engineering consultancy. Joining us is Sai Srirampur, CEO and co-founder of PeerDB, which was recently acquired by ClickHouse. Together, we'll share some insights from both implementation and product perspective. Sai, did you want to just say a quick few words about yourself?
No, very excited to be here. And I'm Sai. I currently work at ClickHouse and I lead all database integration efforts at ClickHouse. So what our team does is we make it very easy to integrate external databases with ClickHouse. And we are starting with Postgres because it's the popular open source database. And last few months, we have been heads down, with the vision of providing a magical experience for Postgres users to integrate with ClickHouse. Prior to that, as Peter mentioned, I was the CEO and co-founder at PeerDB. We were building a data replication tool with laser focus on Postgres. So we were making it very easy to replicate data from Postgres to external data stores like ClickHouse. And seeing that, ClickHouse, we added ClickHouse connector around close to 1 year ago, and it did really well. That's the reason the acquisition happened. And now we are integrating PeerDB into ClickHouse Cloud to provide a more native, Postgres replication experience. So yeah, that's my background, and very excited to be here. So yeah.
Very excited to have you, Sai. So thank you. A bit about Cloud Shuttle. We are a proud Australian-born data consultancy. Our specialty lies in rapidly transforming organizations through comprehensive data solutions with a proven track record of building modern data platforms in under 3 months. Unlike larger consultancies, we maintain the agility to adapt quickly to your needs. So for today's webinar, here's a bit of our roadmap. We'll take you through each step of the journey from PostgreSQL analytics challenges to scalable ClickHouse solutions. So in our introduction, we'll explore 2 key aspects: how data needs have evolved from traditional Postgres setups to modern analytics requirements, and the specific challenges organizations face when scaling their analytics. This sets the foundation for today's discussion. Let's talk about a reality we're all familiar with, Postgres's dominance in today's applications. While Postgres excels as a transactional database, organizations are increasingly struggle as their analytics needs grow. You see typically lots of read replicas getting used and things like that. So Cloud Shuttle has identified this pattern across multiple clients, leading us to develop a scalable solution using PeerDB and ClickHouse. Here's where it gets interesting. Postgres powers 50% of modern applications, and for good reason. Its ACID compliance and rich ecosystem make it perfect for transactional workloads. However, look at these growth indicators: increasing data volumes, rising concurrent users, and complex analytical needs. These create 4 critical challenges: performance bottlenecks, resource constraints, scaling limitations, and rising costs. These challenges are exactly what we'll address today with our PeerDB to ClickHouse solution. Cool. So now that we understand the evolution of data needs, let's dive deeper into understanding both the traditional database that powers most applications and the modern solutions we're proposing. We'll see why this combination makes perfect sense for today's analytics challenges. So Sai, would you like to take us through what is Postgres?
Yeah, this is my favorite slide. The reason is because I talk about Postgres in every conference. So Postgres, as you know, right, is the most popular and fast growing open source relational database. It has been built with the premise of supporting transactional use cases, right? So the ethos and the evolution of Postgres was to support transactional use cases. It comes with a bunch of features, including ACID guarantees, a rich SQL interface with advanced SQL capabilities like joins, window functions, and stored procedures, a rich ecosystem of tools and extensions. And extensions are like libraries over Postgres. I would say they are one of the superpowers of Postgres, which enhance its capabilities. For example, you have the PostGIS extension, which lets you build geospatial applications with Postgres. Last but not the least, Postgres has a very large developer and a support community, making it easier to find help and build applications with Postgres. So yeah, that is Postgres. And next slide, Peter. Coming to ClickHouse, right? So you can think of ClickHouse as the counterpart of Postgres, but in the analytical and OLAP world, right? ClickHouse, if you see, has also evolved from the same ethos of open source. It has a large developer community, and it has over 33,000 stars. And I believe it's pretty close to 40,000, because this slide is a bit outdated. Second, it is a columnar database, which makes it blazing fast for scanning and querying large data sets. You also get inbuilt compression, right? So we have seen customers get close to 100x compression in some of the use cases. Third is it's a distributed database, which means that you can run ClickHouse on multiple compute nodes, enabling support of large use cases which have terabytes and petabytes of data as well. And last but not the least, ClickHouse is purpose built for analytics, right? It's laser focused on analytics, and it excels in use cases involving aggregations, visualizations, metrics, and more. So you can think of Postgres and ClickHouse to be two sides of the same data coin. Postgres purpose built for transactions, and ClickHouse purpose built for analytics. So yeah, next, Peter. Coming to what PeerDB does, right? So PeerDB, basically the main focus is to bring Postgres and ClickHouse together. So it makes it very easy to integrate Postgres and ClickHouse. It is a purpose built change data capture tool for Postgres, which means that you can capture changes as they happen in Postgres, right? Let it be inserts, updates, deletes, or DDL operations where you add new columns, etc. So you capture those changes and replicate them in real time to ClickHouse, right? And the main value proposition is it's blazing fast, because it's purpose built for Postgres and ClickHouse. And number two, it's very cost effective as well. Under the covers, we do a bunch of optimizations to make data movement very cost effective. For example, we do compression and all of that, right? So now the advantage of this is this lets you integrate Postgres and ClickHouse together. So you can leverage Postgres for transactions and analytic and ClickHouse for analytics on the same data. So ensuring that you use the best tool for the right job, basically. And PeerDB is also easy to configure and use. So it offers a UI, very intuitive UI to add Postgres source, ClickHouse source, and kick off a replication. And in the PeerDB world, replication is defined as a mirror, right? Like, so you're mirroring data from Postgres to ClickHouse. PeerDB also provides like a command line SQL interface. So you can like run a bunch of SQL commands to manage your like peers or data sources and like mirrors. PeerDB supports like multiple deployment strategies, including, we have the standard Docker container, right, where you run a few commands and like have PeerDB running on your like local machine. Additionally, we also have like Kubernetes Helm charts. We open source these as a part of the acquisition. So that was like a thing that we did, like where you can actually run production grade like PeerDB deployments on Kubernetes, right? And last but not the least, as we already mentioned, PeerDB is fully open source with a growing like community around it as well. So yeah, next. Coming to ClickPipes, right? So ClickPipes is the native ingestion service of ClickHouse Cloud. So it's basically so it's Postgres CDC connector, right? Like, so ClickPipes has a bunch of like sources that it supports, right? So you have like object storage like sources like S3, right? Like you have like, streaming sources like Kafka, Kinesis, right? Like Red Panda. We recently added like database sources, right? Like, and we added the Postgres CDC connector, which is in public beta. And the Postgres CDC connector under the covers is powered by PeerDB, basically, right? So you can think of ClickPipes as the managed service version of PeerDB, but natively integrated into ClickHouse Cloud, right? So you don't need to deploy like any other like, compute, etc., right? You just like, have your like ClickHouse Cloud instance, and PeerDB is packaged as like ClickPipes for you, basically. So it allows you to seamlessly add your like Postgres data sources and start replicating them to ClickHouse Cloud. ClickPipes like supports both CDC and one-time replication. This means that you can either continuously replicate data, enabling Postgres and ClickHouse to coexist, right? Like, and use Postgres for OLTP and like ClickHouse for analytics, right? Or we have seen like customers use it like as a one-time migration tool as well, right? Like, say your application is like purely analytical. It's running on like Postgres. It has outgrown. It's not performing that well, and you want to do a one-time migration to like ClickHouse and offload that workload, right? Like, so we have seen like customers use ClickPipes even for these like one-time migrations, right? Like, one is the coexistence use case where you continuously replicate and you have both like Postgres and ClickHouse together. Other is this one-time like migrations, if that makes sense. ClickPipes also enables you to connect like Postgres sources in private networks using features like SSH tunneling and private link. So this is very common, right? Like, we have a bunch of customers who have like Aurora and RDS Postgres databases, which live in private networks, and they, use private link to add these data sources into ClickPipes and start streaming data into ClickHouse Cloud. So last but not the least, as we already covered, right, like ClickPipes is fully integrated into the ClickHouse Cloud experience, right? Which is why you get like 24/7 like on-call support, and it's part of the ClickHouse Cloud experience. So yeah, so this is what ClickPipes is. Next, coming to a few like important features that come with PeerDB and ClickPipes, right? Like, first is, as it is purpose built for like Postgres and ClickHouse, right? You can actually define custom order keys on ClickHouse, right? So while you're like replicating tables, you can specify that like, hey, I want these tables with specific like order keys. You can also stream data from like Postgres read replicas, right? Like, we have customers who basically use read replicas to do CDC, right? Like, so that they don't put load on the source like database. And Postgres read replica based like CDC and logical decoding is supported from Postgres 16, basically, right? Like, which is when read replicas would work. It also supports native replication of partition tables, right? Like, we see a bunch of customers like having events tables with like, which are like partition in Postgres. That also works out of the box with ClickPipes. You can also define like nullable columns. You can say that like, hey, if there is null data in Postgres, I want to replicate it as nulls in ClickHouse, so you can specify that as well. We also let you like exclude columns and like pick and choose columns as a part of the replication job. This is very common where you want to exclude, say, PII data as a part of replication, right? Like, you don't want your like PII data like in your analytical store, but you move the rest of it and to Power Analytics, right? We have like more Postgres specific features like automatic heart beating, right? Like, so what this does is, right, like, just to set some context, like Postgres has this data structure called replication slot, and which is what like, ClickPipes consumes to like, put data into ClickHouse. And one problem we have seen with like replication slots is when they are idle, right, they can grow, because like your Postgres has like vacuuming operations, a bunch of these like auxiliary processes, so they can grow big, which is where this automatic heart beating feature is very helpful, where it like, flushes the replication slot as well. And last but not the least, like it's like a fully managed experience by which like, you have like out of the box metrics, right? Like, so we also expose like open telemetry endpoints where you can stream it to your like any like metrics monitoring tool and like monitor like, PeerDB. We also support like, geospatial streaming of geospatial data. So like in regards to types also, right, like we are very like, native, right? Like we try to like put arrays as like arrays on ClickHouse. We support like more like composite types, like geospatial data types and all of that. So yeah, next, Peter. Yeah, I think we already talked a lot about like, power of ClickHouse and PeerDB, but we can go forward. Next.
Yeah. So now that we understand the challenges, let's explore the solutions that combine the two powerful technologies. We'll see how ClickHouse and PeerDB work together to solve these analytical challenges while maintaining your production performance. So this is an exciting development in the data world. In July 2024, ClickHouse acquired PeerDB to strengthen their real-time analytics capabilities. This acquisition means deeper integration, as we've seen, better support, and more seamless experience for organizations looking to scale their analytics. What makes this solution special? 3 key benefits. It's blazingly fast, achieving 10x faster initial loads through parallel snapshotting. It's simple. You can set up replication in minutes, not days. And it's flexible, supporting any Postgres database, whether hosted on premise or in the cloud. Plus, it's feature rich with native monitoring capabilities, as Sai took us through. Anything that you'd like to add to that one, Sai?
No, I think most of it is covered, and I think the fun part is going to be basically to see all of this in action. And
absolutely. Yeah, so let's compare these technologies. While Postgres excels at transactional workloads, it faces limitations with analytics at scale. ClickHouse, on the other hand, is purpose-built for analytical workloads, offering up unparalleled performance through its column-oriented architecture and distributed nature. So Cloud Shuttle's approach, we'll take you through a quick implementation and a demo of the approach of how we've approached things at Cloud Shuttle. In short, what this the migration architecture looks like from Postgres, leveraging ClickPipes on ClickHouse Cloud, and then straight through to ClickHouse. So here you can see the key architecture components, such as the prerequisites, source configuration, data pipeline, and target setup. So now for the exciting part of the webinar, the technical deep dive. Sai, did you want to take us through this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we'll do, Peter, is like we'll actually like show the demo and get into the technical deep dive, if that makes sense, basically.
Yeah. Did you want to skip straight to the demo then?
Yep. Let me share my screen and we'll go into the demo, and then we'll tie all of that to the technical deep dive right after. So, yeah.
Let's do this. Let's get this party started.
Yeah. Let me share my screen, and we'll keep this like very candid. Like so. Let me share my screen. Let me know if you're able to. Okay, 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're just sharing the live stream, but now we can see. Oh.
Okay. Perfect. Now can you see my screen?
Yep, we've got a terminal. Awesome.
So I have like my Postgres database, right? Like which is actually running on GCP. I guess this is in GCP. It can be any Postgres source, right? It can be like Aurora, RDS Postgres, Supabase, Neon, like Crunchy, Tembo, like any flavor of Postgres should work basically. So let's go ahead and so I have 2 tables in my database. Like I have like the events table and the users table. And if you see the events table, right, like it has a bunch of columns, right? Like you have the JSON-B column as well. You have like, booleans, like you have like integers, right? And I have a million rows in this, events table, right? And now the goal is to replicate this events table to ClickHouse, right? Like, and show you like two things. One is like copying the existing data set, which is a million rows, and also show you the continuous replication where I'll keep adding rows to like, events, and then that gets replicated to ClickHouse like in real time. So let's go to ClickHouse Cloud, and in the ClickHouse Cloud console, right, like you have the data sources tab, right, like, and this is the ClickPipes experience, right, like, so you have a bunch of data sources as you're seeing here, and let's add the Postgres, data source, right. This is PeerDB integrated into the ClickHouse Cloud experience. Let me call this as Postgres CDC to ClickHouse demo, right? I'll put on my host, right? Like, which is the one that is in GCP. And then I'll go ahead and add the database, which is like, Postgres CDC demo. The user is Postgres. And then I'll put in the password right here. Then you can also like, do SSH tunneling, right? Like, so this feature lets you connect like Postgres databases, which are in like private networks, right? Like, so that's also supported out of the box. And we, for private link also there is documentation. So private link is also supported out of the box. So here is the replication method, right? Like, so here I'm having like 3 replication methods. If you see, initial load plus CDC is like, the initial snapshot of data plus the continuous replication. Initial load only is like more, one-time migrations, right? Like, where I just want to get the data that is present in like, ClickHouse in Postgres to ClickHouse, right? So this is more for one-time migrations. And CDC only is like, I just want to get data that is continuously getting added, right? I don't want the initial snapshot. It's not very common, but like you have an option for this as well. So let's click on the next button, and it gives you some like, okay, these are some Postgres settings that you need to change, etc., for logical replication, which are already done. So I'll say continue anyway. And then here you specify the publication. You can even leave that field, right? Like, and publication in Postgres is what like, is like it's like a filter over what tables that you want to, replicate to ClickHouse, right? So you can create it, or you can leave it to ClickPipes to, create it. There is also an advanced settings tab where you can configure the real timeness, right? Like, so I'm saying that, hey, I want a real timeness of 10 seconds, right? Which means that like data in like ClickHouse is 10 seconds older, right? Like, so it is pretty real time, right? So I'll do that, and then I'll go to configuring the tables. So this is the fun part. So you can specify like which database you want to like put on ClickHouse, right? Like, so I'm using the SI like database. I'll open this up, and this should show you the events table, which I was like talking about. I also have the users table, but I'll table this for like the second part of the demo, right? Let's go ahead and specify the events table. I'll call this as, demo underscore events, right? And then here you can also specify like, custom sorting keys, right? Like, I won't do this as a part of this demo, but then you can also specify like your order keys, right? And then I'll skip this. There are some column settings also, right? Like, so you can specify which columns you want to exclude, which columns you want to include. So we support that as well out of the box. So let's go ahead and go to the next step, right? So I have the events table that I have chosen, which I want to replicate, and I'll give full access. You can also specify like, what access that that ClickPipe should have. So you can choose granular access control, right? I'll skip that, and I'll go ahead and create the ClickPipe. So let's give it like a couple of minutes. This will under the covers like provision the infrastructure for you, and then start replication, right? Like, so the current state is provisioning. So let's, okay, actually it started, like, so the snapshot started. Let's go. So that is pretty quick. And okay, so it's already, a million rows already, are processing. And if you see, it took around 5 seconds to move a million rows to like, ClickHouse. And let's go to ClickHouse now, right? And if I just click on this button, right, it will directly take me to the demo event. It should take me to the demo events table. Let's like refresh the page. And then if you see, this is the demo events, which was not there before, right? So under the covers, like did the right data type conversion, right? Like, and then it got the data on ClickHouse. Let's go ahead and, run the query, select count star from demo underscore events, right? Like, and this would show you a million rows basically. So yeah, it showed a million rows. So it took like, probably 10 seconds to get the data in, right? Like from Postgres to ClickHouse. And then this is the initial load part. Now let's go to the, CDC part. Let me go ahead and, insert some data into the users table, into the events table, right? So let me go ahead and say I insert like around 1,000 rows into the events table, right? Like, so if I do a count star from events, and then I have 1,000 rows, I'll keep adding them. Like, I mean, why not? So like, let me go ahead and, keep adding them, right? Like, so I'm adding every 2 seconds, I'm adding 1,000, like, inserts, right? Like into the events table. And now let's go to the data sources tab, and let's see what, like, ClickPipes provides. If you see, right, like this one shows you the initial load, which is already done. And then if you see here, this would show you the data that is getting in, right? Like, so the if you remember, the refresh interval is 10 seconds, right? Like, so every 10 seconds it's getting around, like, 5,000 rows, which is adding up, right? Like, so 17,000 rows are like already getting replicated. And now I go to the again go to the table, and let's run a count. So let's go to the demo events table, and then let me run it. Select I'll choose the database, which is my, like, Psi database. Select count star from demo underscore events, right? And then if you see, the data is getting added, right? Like, and it was a million rows before, now it's like 1,27,000. They should keep changing basically, right? So yeah, so this is the continuous replication bit. And let's go to any questions so far, like any thoughts. So I'll take a pause here. So.
Yeah, I think no, this is awesome, and like just the query time to execute that count of the records is like 2 milliseconds, and then the replication lag is just so minimal and stuff like that. Can really see how this is a powerful solution. But I think what's like really impressed me about the solution as well, Sai, is just the thoughtfulness of the solution, where there's like really good governance, being able to sort of like select roles and obfuscate columns, if they contain PII and stuff like that. So I think you can see that this is really sort of ready for prime time in many sort of like challenging organizations or like environments where lots of like governance type considerations need to be applied, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we have like also, if you just go to the CDC connector, right? Like, so these are all the customers that are already using this in production. And yeah, and let's go to the second part of the demo, right? Like, so we where I'll show you what are the different features that are part of the ClickPipes, right? Like, so one is, you saw like metrics, which you're seeing here. We also provide like logs, right? Like, where it's showing okay, how long it took and what are the number of records, right? You can see the tables, etc. You can also if you go to the source tab, you can actually monitor stuff on the Postgres side, right? Like, so here, if you see, this is the replication slot that got created on Postgres. So you can check what is the replication slot size. It's 2 MB, which means that like it's catching up, right? You can also go and see what is the activity on the Postgres side, right? Like, this is very useful when, say, for whatever reason, replication is not catching up, right? Like, and this does happen in production, like great workloads. That's the reason we provide like operational visibility on, okay, monitoring your slot size, like monitoring wait events on like Postgres and all of that. So yeah, and then after this, like, I'll show you, you can also add like tables to the existing mirror, right? Like, so if you remember, I had the users table, right? Which I didn't add to the mirror intentionally, right? Like, to the pipe. So I'll pause this like pipe, and then I'll pause this pipe, and then I can go ahead and basically select tables. So this is going to refresh in a second. Okay. And then I can edit the table settings. Previously, this was blurred, you see, right? Like, so I had to pause the pipe for this to open up. Then here I can actually choose a new table as a part of the pipe, right? Like events is already there. I can remove it also. That capability is also there, right? Like, but you can also add like the users table, right? So I'll go here and then like, users table has around like, 1,000 rows basically. So let's go ahead and say like, and it's named as public underscore users, right? I'll call this as demo underscore users, and then I'll update the settings. So once I do this, let's again go to the tables tab, and then this should show demo users. So it is in progress, if you're seeing, right? And let's give it a few seconds. Boom, done. So like users is also done. Now let's go to, check the users table. And then if I refresh this, right, like it shows the demo users table also. And then that should have, the data demo underscore users, right? Like it has around 1,000 rows, if you remember, right? Like, so that data is also copied. And then the pipe is in the continuous replication phase, where like continuously data is now still is getting added, right? Like, I mean, which is because I have my ingestion script that's going on events, right? So that is going on, and like the data, if you see like the metrics are changing. So basically you have the flexibility to edit pipes also. So you can add tables, you can change settings, right? Like, so this is very helpful in like production grade systems. We also introduced like, user facing alerts, right? Like where for whatever issue your pipe is running into issues, etc. Right? So you automatically get an email, and you also get like, notifications in your notification center, right? Like, so that's also there. As a part of public beta, we also like have open API support, right? Like, so everything that I'm doing here, right? Like you can control via APIs, right? Like you can provision pipes, you can like, add tables, you can create like, you can like drop pipes, all of that using like API. So yeah, so this was the demo. Hope you enjoyed it, and looking forward to take any questions. So yeah.
Yeah, we should. Let me just change the screen settings. But yeah, we will take some questions. So please do send them through. And yeah, like what I really enjoyed about that demo was just how seamless and how thoughtful actually the replication is in terms of like being able to sort of pause it, add some extra tables. Keen to understand sort of like in terms of scale, what sort of scale have you seen this operating at out in the wild, and some of the challenges perhaps, have you seen sort of like Postgres configuration being sort of a bit of a challenge in terms of how quickly they can write out the records before PeerDB and ClickPipes consumes it?
No, great question, right? Like, so the scales that we have seen, right, like are, so one of the largest like Postgres database that like we that is active, that is getting replicated to ClickHouse cloud is around like 30-40 terabytes. This is like a single Postgres database basically. And then this is where like the purpose built nature of ClickPipes really matters. So I'll go into the technical deep dive, which captures all those features that we have, which are able to support this kind of scale. And in regards to challenges, right, like, so sometimes what happens, right, like Postgres has this concept of replication slots, right, like where it's very important to consume the replication slot, right, like, and because it can grow on the source, right, like, so for that, like, we have a bunch of like optimizations in place. For example, we have a optimization where we always consume the replication slot. So even if ClickHouse is down for whatever XYZ reason, we always consume the replication slot and shove it to like our internal like stages, which are there in S3, right? Like, so they are fully secure, and like, we have mechanisms where so this is we call this as asynchronous pull and push, right? Like, where pulling from Postgres and like pushing to ClickHouse are asynchronous, right? Like, so we always consume the replication slot. We are working on another feature which is going to be like pretty cool, is consumption of like in-flight transactions. So like currently, right, like we consume a transaction only if it's finished on Postgres, right? Like that's the standard default. But then we are taking like logical decoding and CDC to one notch ahead. No ETL tool in the planet does this, basically, where we consume in-flight transactions and that like flushes the slot like faster, right? Like, so yeah, so these are the scales that we handle, and the main focus is, right, like, I mean, is production enterprise grade workloads. Supporting them is like the main focus, Peter. So, yeah.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, I had another question, but I forgot. We need the audience to chime in with some questions, I think. So hopefully they'll come through soon. They're still thinking of them, I'm sure. So, okay, so take us through some of these features of and technical details of PeerDB and ClickPipes. What's this one all about? Parallel snapshotting.
Yeah, so this is what like this is a feature which really optimizes the initial load and initial copy of data, right? Like if you remember, the million rows got like replicated in 5 seconds, if you remember, like 5-10 seconds, right? And this feature like mattered there, right? Like, so it helps like move terabytes of data in few hours instead of days. So like what we do is like it lets you replicate a single large table. It lets you like migrate a single large table with parallel threads, right? Like, so the way we do that is on the Postgres side, like Postgres like rows have this like identifier called the tuple identifier, which is like a pointer to the row on disk, right? Like, so what we do is we partition this table based on like tuple identifiers, right? And create these logical partitions. And then we stream these partitions in like a consistent way to ClickHouse, and under the covers, like we do the write like transformation where we convert it to like the Avro format, right? Like, which is, we also do ZSTD compression over like Avro, which makes it like even faster, right? And so this, like, the short of it is, right, like this lets you like move like terabytes of data in a few hours instead of days. But yeah, so that is this is the first feature. So next.
Nice. We do have a question from the audience, actually, Sai. So all of these features of PeerDB and ClickPipes, can these features facilitate building a data lakehouse? This one's from Craig Rodriguez.
Great question. So in regards to building like a data lakehouse, right? Like, so one thing, right, like is basically ClickHouse does work as a query engine over like, Iceberg and like Delta formats, right? Like, and we are making a lot of investments. Just today, like, we had we had like a collaborative call with like the Databricks team on our like latest release and like all the data lakehouse features that we have added. Right now, coming to CDC and like replication in the data lakehouse world, one thing that we are like working on is basically Iceberg CDC, which like actually lets you replicate Iceberg data into ClickHouse native format. This is very powerful for like real-time analytics, right? Because data lakehouse is more for data science and like offline analytics, right? But then you want to like power like low latency analytics, like less than 100 milliseconds, less than 10 milliseconds, which is where this Iceberg CDC like would be very helpful. So that is a data source that we are like have in our roadmap, basically. And that is one. The second is basically you can already query like data lakehouse, I mean Iceberg data and like data lakes with like the ClickHouse query engine. Like we also added like partition pruning as a feature recently, which boosts like performance. A lot of like other features are coming. And third is you can also use like the S3 like ClickPipe, right? Like as an interim to like move like Parquet data, right? Like to ClickHouse native format, right? Like, and this Parquet data can be your lakehouse, right? Like, so those are the three things. Like Iceberg CDC, we are working on it. Number two, like use ClickHouse as the query engine on like these data lakes. It will be pretty fast. We're investing heavily on this. And number three, basically, you can use our S3 ClickPipe, right? Like as an interim for Iceberg CDC to stream these Parquet files to the ClickHouse native format. So yeah.
Awesome. Really appreciate the answer, Sai. And thanks so much, Craig, for the awesome question. Really appreciate it. Very cool. So up next, I think we talked about always consume the replication slot. Did you wanted to add anything further to that one, Sai?
No, I think we already talked about this in the flow, right? Like where we always consume the replication slot to keep it like, always flushed and like not affect the Postgres database. So next. Yeah, Peter.
Consume in-flight transactions, you touched on this one as well. This is a very exciting feature, and I'm sure is like just going to produce blazingly fast performance.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very excited about this feature because this would like, take like CDC to the next level. We've already done that with initial load, like consumption of replication slots, right? Like, so we want to define like redefine like Postgres CDC, right? Like we want to make that experience magical, right? Like, and logical replication V2 is another like effort in that direction. This would like let you support like throughputs, large throughputs, like over 50,000 like transactions per second, over 100,000 transactions per second to with CDC, right? Like, so excited about this one. And this is one like, just we did like, we wrote a white paper about this. It just shows like, replication slot growth, right? Like, so with V1, it took like 200 seconds for the replication slot to like fall down. But then with V2, it just took 25 seconds, right? So there is an orders of magnitude, like, better flushing of the replication slot. And this is very helpful when you have like, beefy transactions, right? Like, so when you have like, large transactions happening in Postgres, V2 would be like very powerful. So yeah.
Super awesome. Postgres native monitoring.
Yeah, we touched upon this. Like, if you remember, right, like in the demo, I showed you the source tab, right? Like in PeerDB also, I showed it to you in ClickPipes, but in PeerDB also there is like a source tab, which lets you monitor replication slot growth, right? Like what is the, what do you call, what are the active events on like bait events on Postgres and all of that, right? So this page lets you, monitor the replication process. And yeah, very helpful, like diagnosing issues, etc. So yeah.
Cool. All right. So key takeaways. Before we conclude today's webinar, let me emphasize two crucial points that make this solution stand out. First, modern analytics without production impact. So, we're getting your analytical workloads and removing them away from your Postgres database. And what you've seen today is a way to achieve powerful analytics capabilities while maintaining your Postgres performance. We're talking about real-time replication with minimal resource overhead and native monitoring, all working together to keep your production systems running smoothly. Second, Cloud Shuttle's enterprise-ready implementation. Our production tested methodology ensures a smooth transition. We handle the complete setup, provide continuous optimizations, and future-proof your data architecture. I wanted to say a massive special thank you to our very special guest, Srirampur, product leader, database integrations at ClickHouse, previously CEO and co-founder of PeerDB. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And just wanted to say a big thank you to you for joining us today to learn about this powerful new analytics solution. For more implementation about the solution or to discuss your specific needs, please reach out to us at Cloud Shuttle. I know also ClickHouse themselves have got a fantastic Slack channel where they can answer questions related to ClickPipes as well. But if you need any support, please do reach out to us at Cloud Shuttle. Any parting thoughts before we sort of finish up with the live stream today, Sai? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm muted. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And like, yeah, the parting thought is, if you have Postgres databases and you want to give ClickHouse a shot, just like, create an account and use like ClickPipes, and in few minutes you can get data and like see how blazing fast like ClickHouse is. So yeah, and let us know if any like issues happen through the process, expecting it to be smooth. But yeah, thanks for inviting me, Peter, again. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just really excited. Thank you for building these sorts of solutions. It's just, the opportunities that these solutions are opening up are endless. So really appreciate all the work in sort of bringing this solution to life. So, And thanks so much for being so kind to join us today on the live webinar. All right. Peace out, folks. Ciao for now. See you in a bit. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.